I'm Karen P. Wegan. So today, I'm going to continue our report, which is chapter 4, and I'm from group 4. Today is my part. My part is I'm going to discuss with you 4.6, an overview of the purchasing function. The hospitality industry made up of a surprisingly large number of small operations. The small operator normally has to conduct some business procedures informally, and purchasing may be one of them. The large company may employ purchasing specialists, but the normal pattern is for an owner manager to squeeze the purchasing activities into his or her schedule. Every operation performs pretty much the same activities. Meanwhile, the large companies tend toward completeness. Smaller firms must trim somewhere. So this is the overview of the purchasing function that focuses on small operator and large company. So when we say small operator, it has to conduct some business procedures by purchasing one of them. While the large company, they can employ purchasing specialists that can perform specific tasks in the purchasing activities, and he or she must put purchasing activities into his or her schedule. 4.6.1, purchasing activities. Regardless of the size of a hospitality operation, someone must perform a certain number of purchasing activities. The owner manager does the best that he or she can under the circumstances. So when we say purchasing activities, it's all about the activities of a hospitality operation that performed by someone in a certain number of purchasing activities. And the owner manager should do his or her best to undergo the circumstances. One survey of hotel purchasing agents uncovered the following key purchasing responsibilities. Determine when to order is used by a buyer to place an order and is issued before delivery. So in this part, as buyer who consume who order a specific product from a certain online business or establishment should place his or her order and is issued before the delivery. Control inventory levels means managing your inventory levels to ensure that you are keeping the optimal amount of each product. So you should know how to control your inventory levels in order for you to manage your inventory levels and to ensure that you are keeping the optimal amount of each product. Established quality standards are sets of good practices and methods established by industry advisory groups. So, in establishing your own quality standards, you should set a good practices and methods that you want to establish by the industry advisory groups, or before you are going to produce a product, make sure you have to establish your own quality standards that are established by the industry advisory groups of a certain company or a business. Determine specifications. It defines what the procurer wants to buy and consequently what the supplier is required to provide. So in determining your specifications, you should define what procurer wants to buy and what supplier is required to provide you some supplies for your specific product. Obtain competitive bids is a common practice for procurement that involves inviting multiple vendors to bid for the same material, product, or service for the business requirements. So, in obtaining competitive bids, you should commonly practice the procurement, which involves in inviting multiple vendors to bid for the same material, product, or services that per business requirements. Investigate vendors. It is essential for companies to verify and monitor those parties with which they do business and ensure their third parties comply with relevant laws and standards within their industry and jurisdiction. In investigating your vendors, it is very important for you, especially if you have a business which has a lot of competitive vendors behind or beside you. So it's so important that you as a business owner must investigate those vendors if they have the relevant laws or standards within their industry or anything that can be used by the third parties, so that you would ensure that you are dealing with those vendors that has the same goal as a business owner, in which to gain more profit and to sell more products towards the consumers or to the customers. Arrange financial terms means revenue, cost, profit, and loss. The average rate of return and break even are basic financial terms you can find in most companies' documents and financial reports. So in this part, you should know how to arrange your financial terms. It's either it's revenue, cost, profit, or loss. It's very important that you would know how to arrange it. And in order to break even the basic financial terms that you can find in some companies or most companies' documents and financial reports. Oversee delivery means is the one who supervises the delivery to make sure that the product was delivered on time. So in this part, it's very important that someone is supervising the delivery of your product to make sure that your product or the product was delivered on time at the right place and at the right address. Negotiate refunds. A seller may initiate a partial refund negotiation after the online business platform approve the return or refund request. So, as example, as a seller, you should know how to negotiate refunds. If ever the specific online business platform is approving the return or refund request of a consumer or a customer, as the business owner, you should initiate a partial refund negotiation so that the customer can get his or her refund upon requesting it from the online business platform. Handle adjustments. Regularly review the process and make adjustments that optimize it either by reducing risk or making it more efficient. So, as a business owner, you should know how to handle adjustments, particularly in reviewing the process and make adjustments in your business. It's either you would reducing risk or making it more efficient. Arrange for storage. Learn to organize and label those products inside the storage facility in order to avoid any damage into the products and to provide more space for the new products. So if you have a business or so it's really important to have a storage facility, and also you should learn how to arrange your storage in order to organize, to put labels to your products inside the storage facility so that you would avoid any damage into your products, and also to provide more space for the new products that you want to sell to the market. A study of large food service firms indicated that the purchasing center on recipe development is the process of turning an idea food related into a finished product or dish done by trained food stylists or home economists. So, um, in res- in a large food service firms, they indicated a recipe development in which it is a process of turning an idea food related into a finished product or dish that was done by the trained food stylist or home economist. So, for example, if you are the chef of your own restaurant, so some of the customers want a new product or a new food that they want to try. So, as a chef of the restaurant, it's your it's your responsibility to have a recipe development in which you want to make another recipe or you want to develop your own recipe so that the customer will be thrilled to buy your food. Menu development focuses primarily on the dish selection and design of a menu. So, aside from recipe development, you should also develop your menu in which it focuses in a primarily to the dish selection and design of a menu. Approval of buying source is a workflow for validating buying supplies from a certain source. So, in approval of buying source, so it is for validating buying supplies from a certain source. So, for example, if you're lacking supplies for your business, it's very important to have an approval from the owner of the business for you to buy supplies from a certain source or supplier. Specification writing. A good specification must include all the right information to enable them to cost up goods or services accurately so a customer can compare bids on a like-for-like basis. So in specification writing, you should know how to choose a good specification that include all the right information to enable them to cost up goods or services. For example, in a product, as a buyer or a consumer, you should want you should see the specification rating of that product for you to be able to know the right information of the product you want to purchase. Designation of approval brands is a designation to products identified by manufacturer and item number and is pre-approved by the Food Service Department like FDA. In designation the approval brands, so as a seller or a business owner, it's very important for you to designate your products identification that was identified by the manufacturer and item number. And also, it should have a pre-approved by the Food Service Department like FDA or Food and Drugs Administration. Supplier evaluation, the process of assessing and approving potential suppliers through quantitative and qualitative assessments. So as a business owner of a so as a business owner, it's very important for you to have negotiation towards your supplier, in which you should know or you should evaluate your supplier, most especially in the processes of assessing and approving some potential suppliers through it's either quantitative or qualitative assessments. Negotiation with supplier is an essential part of the buying process as it helps to create a deal that meets the needs of both parties. Aside from evaluating your supplier, it's also important that you have a negotiation with your supplier, in which it is an essential part of the buying process as it helps you to create a deal that meets the needs of the both parties. Approve new products. The approval of a governmental authority necessary for the marketing and sale of the product is a given country or regulatory jurisdiction. So, before you are going to produce a new product to the market, it's very important that it is approved by the governmental authority, such as FDA, in which it is necessary for the marketing and sale of the product that was been given by the country or regulatory jurisdiction. Change of brands. When a company changes its logo, slogan, vision, mission, values, name, target audience, or market to build a new brand identity in the minds of leads, customers, competitors, and partners. So, in changing your brands, it's very important that the company must also change its logo, slogan, vision, or mission, values, name, target audience, or market in order to build a new brand identity that in the minds of the customers, competitors, or partners. So for example, if you have a new existing product and you want to rebrand it, you should specific its logo, slogan, vision, mission, values, name, and your target audience so that the customers will now identify your new brand of your product. Change of suppliers is the process of assessing, selecting, and onboarding new suppliers while maintaining continuity of supply. So, in changing your suppliers, it is a process that assess and select and onboarding new suppliers while still continuing or still maintaining the continuity of supply. So, as a business owner, if you want to change your suppliers, it's up to you. If you want a new one or you want to negotiate with other one. But keep in mind that it's just a process that assess or selecting a new supplier while you still want to maintain the continuity of getting supply from your previous supplier. Invoice approval is the process of reviewing and approving supplier invoices before the payment is processed. So in invoice approval, it's a process that reviews and approves supplier invoices before you are going to pay it or before the payment is being processed. Invoice payment, a scheduled payment a customer makes toward the balance of goods and services rendered. So aside from invoice approval, there's also an invoice payment wherein it is scheduled the payment of a customer towards the balance of goods and the services they rendered from a seller or from a business establishment. Order placement with supplier is the process of initiating a purchase order for goods or services in the procurement process. So in this part, it is a process that initiates the purchase order of goods or services that the procurement process provide. Substitution of approval items, a product or service that consumers see as essentially the same or similar enough to another product. So, in substitution of approval items, there is a product or services that the consumer see that is essential, the same or has the similar enough to another product. So, halimbawa is ang pag-substitute ng isang approval items. For example, if the product that you want to buy or you always want to buy or your favorite one is not available, the seller must introduce a substitution of that product that still has the characteristics of your favorite product that you always order, but it has the same name. Still, it meets your standard or your characteristics from the previous product which is not available. So you see it that it's still essentially the same or they are similar enough to another product that you always want to purchase in their business. Selection and procurement place. Typically, the person charged with purchasing responsibilities needs to determine relevant policies and procedures to guide the purchasing function. So, in selection and procurement place is the person who is charged with purchasing responsibilities. They need to determine the relevant policies and procedures in order for them to guide on what is the purchasing function all about. Determine requirements. In most cases, the buyer helps to determine the varieties and amounts of products, services, equipments, and furnishings that the hospitality enterprise requires. So, determine requirements is the buyer wants to help to determine the varieties or the amount of the products, services, that equipments, and the furnishings that the certain hospitality enterprise requires. So, kumbaga, yung buyer mismo ang tutulong upang i-determine ang iba't ibang varieties or halaga ng mga produkto o services, kagamitan na ni-require ng isang hospitality enterprise. Supplier selection. Selecting dependable suppliers who will provide consistent values is a very difficult task. So, in selecting your supplier, it's so dependable that you will select a certain supplier who is gonna or who will gonna provide some consistent values but in a very difficult task. So, sa pagpili ng supplier, isa siyang napakahirap na gawain, although nakasalalay doon kung paano sila mag-provide ng mga produkto or mga supply na maaaring makatulong sa inyong kumpanya. Maintain a covenant and sufficient inventory. Means an operation must practice optimal inventory management, which is nothing more or less than ensuring that an appropriate inventory of all items is always on hand. So, in this part, the seller should maintain a convenient and sufficient inventory, in which the operation should practice the optimal inventory management, that is, which is nothing more or less than ensuring an appropriate inventory of all the items that is always on hand in your establishment or in your business. Conduct negotiations. The general feeling in the industry is that negotiating should not be a euphemism for browbeating supplies firm, but fair bargaining builds mutual respect. So, bilang isang business owner, kinakailangan mo ring mag-conduct ng negosasyon sa pamamagitan ng negosasyon sa iba't ibang kumpanya or industry that offers a firm but fair bargaining, builds mutual respect towards each company or each other. 4.6.2 Research activities. Buyers often find it necessary to conduct research objects. So in research activities, the buyer is focusing, or the buyer often find it necessary to conduct research projects. So in research activities, this is the activities that include value analysis. This involves examining a product in order to identify unnecessary costs that can be eliminated without sacrificing overall quality or performance. In value analysis, this involves an examining of the product so that they can identify the unnecessary costs that can be eliminated without sacrificing the overall quality or performance. So, you should know how to value analysis the product so that you would know how much it cost, or maybe it can eliminated without sacrificing the overall quality or performance of a product or services that a certain company provided. Edible portion or EP. Cost is the portion of food that will be served to a customer after the food has been cut and cooked. Value analysis usually works best when it becomes a cooperative venture. So, in value analysis, it includes edible portion cost or EP cost, in which if the portion of the food is served to a customer after it has been cut or cooked, the value analysis usually works best when it becomes a cooperative venture. Forecasting can involve many things, but usually the buyer is most interested in predicting the kinds of products and services that will be available in the future and what their prices will be. So forecasting, so it involves many things, but usually as a buyer, or the buyer is the most interested in predicting the kinds of products or services that will be available in the future, what their prices will be. So, sa forecasting, may involve ang buyer kung saan siya mismo yung interested sa pag-predict ng iba't ibang uri ng produkto or services na maaaring available in the future at ang kanilang mga presyo. What if analysis? Many buyers use computer spreadsheet software to develop mathematical models that can test various what if proposals. So what if analysis, it focuses into the buyer, in which the buyer can use different computer spreadsheet like Excel software, in which it develops mathematical model that could test the various what if proposal. So in the PPT, I put the formula in getting the ingredients for percentage of overall food cost. So increase in overall food cost equals to percentage price increase for the ingredient times the ingredients percentage of overall food cost equals to 10. For example, your overall food cost is 10%, or your percentage price increase for the ingredient is 10%. You times 50%, which is the ingredients percentage of the overall food cost, equals to 0.10% multiplied by 0.50% equals to 0.05 or times 5%. So that is the total ingredients percentage of the overall food cost. Other more complicated formulas can be developed to show, for instance, the effect on a purchase price increase on overall profits. So maybe there is a complicated formulas, but it can still be developed to show and and its effect in purchase price that can increase the overall profits. Make or buy analysis is one of the most critical types of research projects in which a buyer can become involved. So the make or buy analysis is the critical types of research projects that the buyer can become involved in that analysis. For instance, value added products usually offer the following advantages. Consistent quality. So the advantage of the value added products is the consistent quality, wherein consistent quality is that it maintains the quality of specific product or services that was provided by the certain company. Second is consistent portion control. So in a company or business, they should apply consistent, or they should have a portion control, consistent portion control in their product or services they provide, so that they would know, or so that they can control the spreading or the delivery of their product. Reduce employee skill requirements. So aside from consistent quality, consistent portion control, the company should also reduce the employee skill requirements. So we all know in the Philippines that if a certain company hired or is hiring, they have a lot of requirements that they want to see in a specific or aspirant employee. So in order to gain more employee to the company, or more to hire more employee, the company should reduce its skill requirements so that they can hire a lot of employee that they need in their business. The reduction in if leftovers. So in a restaurant, it's very important that you should reduce the leftovers of your products, because it can cost the loss of sales. Even though you reach your maximum increase sales of a product, but you left with a lot of leftovers, so it's still gonna pull down your increasing sales, because kasi kapag maraming leftovers, malulugi pa rin ang isang kainan, dahil nagko-cost pa rin ito dahil kasali pa rin ito sa costing ng mga ingredients na ginamit sa paggawa ng isang pagkain or produkto na siniserve sa mga customers. So, it's very important to reduce the leftovers upang makakuha ng mas malaking profit at iwas lugi ang isang restaurant or kainan. Operating efficiency, such as less energy needed to reconstitute rather than prepare from scratch a menu item. So, in operating efficiencies, dapat naliles yung energy na kinakailangang i-reconstitute para makapag-prepare pa na galing sa mga scratch. For example, if there is no available ingredient for the food that you want to make or to put in the menu item, you can recreate a product na maaaring gumamit galing sa scratch, or what is the available ingredient in your kitchen, so that you can add another recipe in your menu item. Plant visits. Purchasing agents and buyers usually to take the time to visit suppliers' facilities. Most industry members recommend this practice, particularly when there is some question about the supplier's ability to fulfill a need. So plant visits, hindi lang pagiging purchasing agents or buyer ang maaari mong bigyan ng oras. Dapat ding may oras ang isang owner na bisitahin ang supplier or ang kanyang supplier, lalong-lalo na ang kanilang pasilidad, to make sure that the members of the recommend that para maisiguro na ang mga miyembro ng iyong supplier ay ma-recommend ang mga practice, particularly sa mga katanungan na maaari mong itanong sa abilidad ng isang supplier, if they could meet your standard and to fulfill the needs of your company by getting more supplies from your suppliers. So it's very important to visit your supplier's facility to make sure that their product is high quality, that could fit to your products, that could fit to your products, and to maintain its quality. Maintain supplier diplomacy means a buyer works continually with suppliers and salespersons. Meanwhile, several other suppliers may wish for the buyer's business. The objective of trade relations is to spread the purchase dollar among as many suppliers as possible. So in maintaining supplier diplomacy, the buyer works continually with the suppliers or at salespersons. So dito, yung buyer mismo yung nagtatrabaho continually sa suppliers o sa isang salespersons na maaaring ang ibang supplier ay mag-grant yung wish ng isang buyer business. So the objective of this trade relations is to spread the purchase dollar among as many suppliers as possible. So ang goal lang ng maintain supplier diplomacy is spread yung purchase dollar na maaaring makakuha pa ng mas maraming supplier as possible. Educate suppliers. Buyers must attempt to keep all potential suppliers informed about anything that can help improve their performance. Suppliers who stay abreast of your changing needs can provide the service to match those needs. Moreover, a buyer can continually test a supplier's flexibility and capability. So, aside from evaluating your suppliers, it's so important that they educate or you educate your suppliers so that the buyers can attempt to keep all the potential supplies informed anything about that can improve their performance. And also, the suppliers who stay abreast in changing the needs, they can provide to the service that matches those needs. Moreover, the buyer is continually test the supplier's flexibility and capability. Kumbaga, yung buyer mismo yung magtitest sa supplier kung gaano ba sila ka-flexible at ka-flexible and capability sa pagproduce or sa pagproprovide na supply sa inyong kumpanya or sa buyer. And that would be all. Thank you.